Thank you everyone for attending. A couple quick housekeeping items. This is a webinar, so by default, all of the attendees have come in on mute. If at any point you have any questions, there is a chat feature, a Q&A feature that you can use. Send in your questions and we will go over them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Champaign County CPACE launch. I am Anna Maria Kowalik with the Illinois Energy Conservation Authority. We are the program administrators for Champaign County's CPACE program. We appreciate your attendance. Sit back and enjoy. I am now going to introduce someone who's been a very avid supporter of win-win partnerships. Prior to being elected as Champaign County's first county executive, Darlene Kleppel served 15 years as Community Services Director at the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission, where she brought over $120 million into the county for housing, workforce development, and services for low-income households. She is committed to providing a safe and healthy community for residents of Champaign County and to bring forward-looking administrative practices to county government. Born near Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, and after living in Germany for the first 4 years of her dad's military service, Darlene grew up in Western Iowa and obtaining her bachelor's degree from Morningside College in Sioux City, and then her master's in social work from the University of Iowa. She worked on the federal project that integrated hospice services into the Medicare payment system and the startup of some of the first hospices around the United States, including Hospice Atlanta, which provided pediatric hospice care and hospice care for persons with AIDS. Darlene returned to college for additional advanced degrees in architecture and city planning from the Georgia Institute of Technology, after which she provided correctional facility consulting through Rosser Fabric Justice Systems and offered strategic and facility planning for healthcare corporations as a senior consultant with Ernst & Young LLP. Wanting to move back to the Midwest, Darlene and Jim chose Champaign County, where Jim, her husband, became a science writer for the University of Illinois. Darlene first assisted with the leadership transition of corporate executives from 3 merging hospital systems as they formed Provena Healthcare, now Presence, and then served for 15 years as the Community Services Director of the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission. During her public administration tenure, she managed over $11 million in federal, state, and local grants through diverse public-private partnerships. Since then, she has provided regional consulting services. Residents of Champaign County for over 21 years, Darlene and her husband Jim have 4 children and 5 grandchildren. Darlene spends leisure time in her garden and traveling the world. She's actually been to all 50 states and over 40 countries. She's ridden a camel, swum with manatees, cuddled a koala bear, and kissed a giraffe. So you can see that she makes friends everywhere. She is a leader in Urbana Rotary and in her church and has served on many local boards and committees. Since her election in 2018 as the first Champaign County executive, she's been promoting Champaign County's world-class environment of well-being and opportunity. She's here today to help us launch the county's latest adventure. So without further ado, Champaign County Executive Darlene Kleppel.
Thank you for coming today to learn about this program. The CPACE program has been in progress now for a couple of years. We've been trying to get it off the ground since the legislature agreed that Illinois would be a CPACE community, and we finally are able to do it here. We've done a project administrator RFQ. Anna Maria and the ITC firm got our contract to be our project administrator, and they are also doing that in several other counties around the state. So we're pleased to be able to join that as one of the forefront counties that are doing this. I just want to turn the floor over to her after I go through a couple of slides just about Champaign County. And you probably know some of these things because many of you are from around here. Champaign County covers almost 1,000 square miles of property, of land area. We are home to the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana and Parkland College, two of the premier educational resources in our area. We have top employers like two great healthcare systems, Carle and OSF, Wolfram, Kraft, Busey. Those are some of our bigger ones. And obviously we have many, many smaller entrepreneurs in our community as well. We have a diverse range of industries, including manufacturing, distribution, technology, medical, agricultural, healthcare. Those are the primary ones that our area is known for. Can I have the next slide? Okay, this is just a map of our community. Most of you are probably familiar with this. We have several larger communities and then many small communities in our county, but we also have a large rural area in our county as well. So lots of farmland here. Next slide, please. Thank you. The census, the 2020 census came back. We have a population of 205,865 people. That was the final count for Champaign County. Our median age is pretty low at under 30. Our labor force size is over half of our population because we do have a fairly young population. We are extremely well educated in our county. 44% of our folks have at least a bachelor's degree, which is very, very high. Our household median income is 51,000. I think actually the more recent number is about 52,000 something. And the commute travel time is pretty quick here. We're not a big city where it takes us an hour to get to work, or we have to ride an hour on the train to get somewhere. It takes 17 minutes to get to work on average in our county here, even with our large geographic area where some folks come from the more rural parts. Next slide, please. These are some quotes about Champaign County as being an important community to live in for a variety of reasons. We are the #1 or #2 startup city for entrepreneurial activity. That came from the Silicon Prairie News. And I think that's because of our technology here. As you know, we have one of the world's largest supercomputers here. We have a great educational program at both Parkland and at the university. We have the entrepreneurial research park area. All of those things are involved with technology. Champaign is ranked #1 on the 218 top 10 best cities for recent college grads. We are considered a very livable community for a wide variety of reasons. The cost of living here, the university here, the education, lots of different activities to do, lots of small businesses, those kinds of things. And then the University of Illinois is ranked 32 in the entire world as one of the top universities. So for all of those reasons, we're a great place to live and attract people coming here to build things. Next slide, please. Okay, want to just talk about our economic development strategy. So the county is part of the Economic Development Corporation, and we do various studies periodically to talk about our economic development here. As you know, I've just mentioned about the technology. The other main thing that our county is centered for, just in terms of geographic location, is transportation and logistics, because we have rail, we have a small airport, we have the highways all crossing here. All good things for trying to transport goods and services. And then we have 3 areas. So for you to know, the community itself and many of the businesses and the university and all the different folks in the community have gotten together. We have decided in our area that we're going to really promote and support 3 areas: ag tech, med tech, and manufacturing. Those are the 3 areas we think we're the best suited for in terms of our geographic area, the resources that we have here, the kinds of economic development initiatives that are coming down from the state that will be supporting those things. We intend to apply for grants and do all kinds of recruiting, trying to get those 3 businesses off, continuing off the ground, starting new things here. So just to let you know, that's kind of where the focus of the community is right now. And because of that, I think the CPACE program is a good addition to that. It offers the opportunity for some development for people that are interested in building here or renovating space here in a variety of ways. And it fits with our interest in technology and development. So I will turn it back over to Anna Maria, who can talk a little more about the program specifically.
Well, thank you, Darlene. And in fact, we too are very excited about this new partnership, particularly given your background with public-private partnerships. That's precisely what CPACE is and has been since its inception nationwide. It is a partnership that requires the legislation of PACE state by state, because every state's taxes differ somewhat, and therefore legislation must be put in place regarding the CPACE financing tool. And CPACE, by the way, for the novices joining today's webcast, is Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. And so it is what its name says it is. It's an assessment vehicle on the tax bill that is the debt instrument for the repayment of this private loan. So it's private equity investment in private projects, but in partnership with the back end house, which is really the front end house in so many respects, in dealing with the public and helping promote projects and economic development that can benefit from the CPACE financing tool. And then on the back end, as far as the administration of the assessments through the tax lien. But thank you very much today, Darlene, and all of Champaign County. We've worked with many different people on the committees, and we're just very happy to be able to launch here today. So who is the IECA? The Illinois Energy Conservation Authority is a 501c3 nonprofit organization here in Illinois. We act as a facilitator or program administrator of the CPACE financing. So we're the intermediary between, on the one hand, all of the stakeholders of a CPACE project, which include the commercial property owner, their capital provider, their mortgage lender, and of course their contractor who's leading whatever energy efficiency project they are undertaking. And then on the other hand, there is the county board administration and the facilitation of the special assessment on the tax bill. So we are that intermediary who helps with a uniform set of documents and the ability to get the deal moving through all the appropriate and necessary channels. We come with over 100 years of combined experience and expertise in the commercial real estate industry on our staff of volunteers. And so we hope to be able to add something to the program with that background. So far to date, the IECA is in 12 communities, 10 that have officially launched. And so we're so happy to welcome Champaign to that group, which includes Cook, DuPage, Kane, Kankakee, McHenry, Ogle, Peoria, Will, and Winnebago. We actually have 2 others that are in various stages of getting to launch. And so we'll be making announcements on those shortly. But to date, we have also closed 10 of the 13 deals of CPACE that have closed in the state of Illinois. So we're very proud to be a part of this program. Next slide. So nationally, CPACE has been enabled in 37 states and has active programs. So when I spoke of program administration through the Illinois Energy Conservation Authority, there are about 26 additional other programs besides ours across the nation in various states to be able to facilitate the financing. In its history, and as you can see, it's a very short history, the very first CPACE deals nationwide were closed at the end of 2011 into early 2012. So it's basically 10 years that the program is in existence. Over $2 billion in projects, commercial projects alone have been financed. Over 2,500 projects completed, and approximately 24,000 jobs created as a result of CPACE and CPACE projects. And that's all according to information by our leading industry organization, PACE Nation. Next slide. So what is CPACE? So commercial property assessed clean energy is a financing tool to assist commercial property owners with doing sustainable projects, energy efficiency projects of most sorts, water use conservation, renewable energy installations such as solar, geothermal, et cetera, resiliency improvements, which nowadays in the COVID and hopefully post-COVID era include air purification systems and things of that nature, and electrical vehicle charging infrastructure, which include not only the stations, but could include solar carports and the like. The legislation authorizes voluntary assessment contracts that secure these CPACE financings for the eligible projects. So that's the public portion of the public-private partnership. And as part of the tax bill, these assessments then run with the land in real estate terms. So they are fully transferable from ownership to ownership. So somewhat of a non-recourse vehicle, it could be for the commercial property owner. And it does not accelerate. So unlike a mortgage, which comes fully due upon a sale or a worst case scenario foreclosure of a property, CPACE does not accelerate. It stays with the property and is a fixed rate long-term financing. The only other financial product you could compare it to for its fixed rate long term would be a mortgage or second mortgage. But again, because it doesn't accelerate, only whatever is past due on this CPACE via the tax bill, so past due taxes, that's all that would ever come before the mortgage. So mortgage lender consent is another part of the legislation, which is very important because in CPACE, we want there to be full transparency. And so the commercial property owner works with their lender to ensure that CPACE is a viable option on the property. CPACE financings, like I said, are paid with private capital sources. And so where does that money come from? Well, like all private equity investment, it's the usual customary suspects, pension funds, insurance companies, bank lines. The investment possibilities are endless. And so bottom line, we wish to increase projects and lower energy costs through the facilitation of CPACE projects. On to the next slide. So what types of properties are eligible for commercial property assessed clean energy? Well, office, industrial, retail, healthcare, hospitality, mixed use, and then various special uses such as agricultural and nonprofit can qualify as long as they are able to allow a voluntary assessment on the property and show ability to pay it. as well as multifamily units that are 5 units or greater can qualify if they are rental facilities under one ownership. So that would exclude condominium associations, HOAs, and it does not work for government-owned properties. Units, multifamily 1 through 4 are considered more residential. And so it becomes commercial 5 and above. And government-owned properties don't pay taxes. And therefore, and it's much more difficult to put a special assessment on a government property. The good news is here in Illinois, we do have a refinance option. So any projects that can qualify and have been completed within 36 months back from the closing date would qualify for CPACE financing. And so that's quite a boon in case you've missed anything here in Champaign County and would like to get on the bandwagon and recapitalize through CPACE financing. Next slide. So the types of eligible improvements are basically endless. They are not limited by the state statute. We have one of the most CPACE oriented, the way CPACE was initiated and was meant to be and function is the way that the legislation is written here in Illinois. And we've left it specifically a little bit more open to be able to allow for new technologies that we're unaware of today in order to not have to go back and amend the legislation every time. So you'll find anything that's energy and water efficient, all kinds of lighting systems, automated building controls, and building envelope improvements such as windows and doors, greater insulation and various green roofing options, furnaces, boilers, chillers, heat pumps. You can read the slide fairly much for yourself. Including renewable energies, electrical vehicle charging infrastructure, and resiliency, which also I should note here, not just the air purification systems that I mentioned earlier, but flood mitigation, wind resistance, and microgrids, energy storage, and backup systems. And then, of course, water use purification as well. And many of these, especially the energy and water efficiency items, can be interior and exterior, but as long as it's serving that particular property, because once again, the tax lien is on the pins that are being improved. Next slide. So why CPACE? Why would someone consider taking on this financing? For one thing, it finances up to 100% of the eligible costs with no personal guarantees, freeing up equity for other priorities. It's fixed rate long-term, up to 20 to 30 years, and yields positive cash flow while boosting the property value. The lien runs with the property and transfers to new owners upon sale. In a multi-tenant facility, tenants may share in those costs and savings. And so there's quite an offset, and which is the whole premise of PACE, to have that additional tax liability offset by the energy savings via utility savings, as well as the improvements and the benefits to the environment. There is potential off-balance sheet treatment, and we always recommend that the commercial property owner works with their CFO or whatever parties handle their finance and bookkeeping. And of course, first and foremost, PACE reduces waste and improves the experience on old aging building stock and various infrastructure. On to the next slide. So this is just a little visual as to how owners can use CPACE to fill gaps in their capital stack and then effectively lower their cost of capital. You can see without PACE, there's a 20% owner equity, 20% mezzanine debt, and a mortgage debt at 60%. Whereas if you use PACE financing to take up some of that portion at the fixed lower interest rate, you end up having a savings of over 1.2 points, cost of capital with PACE being at only 7.2%. And cash on cash at 13%. So there's absolutely no way you wouldn't want to have CPACE as a partner in your energy efficiency improvement. On to the next slide. This shows you the transaction process and the partners in the transaction. And so, like I said, IECA is right in the middle. We are working with all of the partners here in this process. So first there is on the left-hand side, you will see that there's an installation contractor who issues a contract to the property owner. The property owner in turn decides they want to do an energy efficiency project. So they review and complete a contract with the contractor, next go to their lender and try to begin having the conversation about consent for a CPACE financing. Then they also bring a capital provider in. And we have on our resources page, which I'll be showing you shortly, it's an open market program for capital providers, for contractors, and there are resources tabs which will show you registered providers of both capital and of product and installation, so that a commercial property owner can just decide to do a project, come to the website, and have all the resources at their command. Then once the project is reviewed and approved and it is brought to the local government for a heads up and review their process to ensure that this is a good project that they're standing behind. And once all of those approvals are received, then the lien is filed, the amortizations begin within the following year. And basically the payments, the installment payments are remitted on the tax bill, and the county then remits the share to the capital provider for the loan. And so this is how it works. And the IECA is there every step of the way, working with the property owner and their capital provider, as well as with the county to make the transaction happen and finally end up with the full installation and a wonderful new energy efficient property. On to the next slide. Here is a sample of our participating capital providers, and we have here today with us Julie Samis from Greenworks Lending, and Inland Green Capital LLC was our sponsor today for refreshments and for the ability of being here and being able to offer you this webcast today. On to the next slide. And so what are typical CPACE financing terms? And these are pretty much set by the market, but not by the market as far as conventional lending standards. So you may be seeing lower interest rates on the conventional lending platform, but it's still guided by market precedent. The loan terms are fully amortized over 5 to 30 years, and the term is dependent on the installation life. And so basically, for example, HVACs could have a life of 15 to 20 years, solar from 20 to 25, windows from 25 to 30. And so dependent on, and if you're doing a multitude of projects, here in Illinois, we will take the longest life expectancy and use that for the whole project. So you can get the most benefit out of a long-term financing. The typical loan sizes can run anywhere from 50,000 to 50 million. And in fact, the largest PACE project just passed in the state of New York, and I think it was close to 90 million, if I'm not mistaken, some 89 point something million. So the possibilities are endless. PACE loan to value is very important. And when we had said earlier that up to 100% financing can be obtained for your energy efficiency project, the only restriction on getting a full 100% would be the PACE loan to the value of the property. Here in Illinois, that ceiling is set at 25%. So if you have $1 million property and you have a $250,000 project for PACE, that can be done, as long as also your combined loan to value with your mortgage or any other encumbering debt on the property does not exceed $750,000, because then 250 plus 750 equals the full 100% of that $1 million property. So will you be denied PACE if the PACE loan to value doesn't match, or the combined loan to value doesn't work out? Let's say in that same scenario, you have an $850,000 mortgage. And so in that scenario, $1 million property with an $850,000 mortgage, the only leeway would be $100,000 to $150,000 in CPACE. And so it would be between the commercial property owner and their capital provider to determine what's the appropriate CPACE financing in this instance. So up to 100% financing, but maximum 25% PACE loan to the value of the property. Then there are statutory requirements, and that's that maximum 25%. Also, on every project, an energy assessment is required. I like to mention solar vendors in this instance. They do a really good job in presenting proposals to their clients, complete with energy audit and assessment of the property. They will look at past utility bills on this property, and they will forecast what the savings will be into the future for the commercial property owner. So fairly much that encompasses what is required under the legislation. However, there are certain projects that are not so easily visible or easily calculated. And so it's recommended that an energy engineer perform an audit or assessment. And they too are considered vendors, contractors under our program. And you will find numerous registered ones under the contractor list on our resources tab. Terms are limited again to the useful life of the equipment. The security on the deal is the assessment contract. Mortgage lender must consent to the PACE financing, otherwise it can't happen. And as I said, there are registered contractors that you can avail yourselves of on the website. Next slide, please. And so, how do you get started? There are 7 easy steps to working with the Illinois Energy Conservation Authority here in Champaign and in other counties. The first is to go to the website www.iecapace.org and log in, set up a username and password. A contractor can do this, a commercial property owner can do this, a capital provider can do this. And once you have access to the login portion of the website, you will have access to even more materials than are publicly available just if you visited each page. And as a commercial property owner, you'd want to put in a pre-application. The pre-application is barely a page and a half long, asks for some basic information, and allows the IECA to be able to take a look at the application and pre-qualify it. Does it meet the property standards? Does it meet the property type standard? Does it meet the energy efficiency measure standard? Are they installing the appropriate items or equipment? And then once we have that pre-application done, the property owner simultaneously should be working on developing an energy project. And so working with their contractor, working with an energy engineer to get together the assessment and bring that whole piece together in order to be able to secure then the financing that they can either select from capital providers from the website, many of whom with which they may have a working relationship and may be working at this time. In fact, many of the deals that have come to our website have come directly from the capital providers themselves. And so they are a huge source of input into the program here in Illinois. So once the financing is secured and the final application is then filled out and all of the appropriate substantiating documentation is presented, then the IECA gains approval or gives approval to the property owner, as well as then takes it the next step. Next page, please. The IECA will arrange for the approval with the local county administration. And at that point, once it's fully vetted and approved by all approving parties, then a closing can occur. And so the the parties enter into this special assessment contract and supplemental agreements between the capital provider and the participating community. Next, you install the project, and eventually the repayment happens. Here in Illinois, it's semi-annually on the property tax bill. And so it's 7 simple steps. Each individual step, I must say, is probably a little bit more complicated than all of that. But just knowing what the process is makes it that much easier for commercial property owners to come to the table. Next slide, please. So why do mortgage lenders consent? Why would they? Mortgage lenders are known for not wanting to subordinate to anything other than the tax bill. But in this case, it's maintaining a valuable relationship with their client, where a CPACE financing comes in to improve the lender's collateral without adding to their balance sheet liabilities. And so therefore, it's a win-win proposition. These projects can improve cash flow, which boosts debt service coverage. And so the ability to pay becomes easier. And upon a default, as previously stated, CPACE financings do not accelerate. The lender is only ever subordinated to delinquent payments. On to the next. So here in Illinois, we have done 10 projects to date. We're in the process now of really getting better case studies together for you and more stories of happy customers of CPACE. But in the meantime, until we do, here are a few facts and figures. The very first CPACE transaction was on an industrial flex space in DuPage County, actually. It was a roof replacement and solar PV system of approximately 24,000 square feet. There was an approved CPACE financing of $318,000 over 25 years. They were expecting annual utility savings of $10,000. And that is aside from any grants, incentives, and rebates, just on the tax bill or on the electric bill alone. That savings may not seem like much, but over time really does amount, and especially in the energy savings, some 26,000, 27,000 kilowatt hours saved, saving 71.5 metric tons of CO2e. Now, what is CO2e? It's the equivalent of CO2. So not only is carbon an issue, but other gases in the atmosphere. And so it is that equivalent number of savings from the environment that really makes CPACE a very sustainable option for helping promote sustainable projects. On to the next slide. So everything comes through the IECA portal. So when you go to IECAPACE.org, you will find the project center where you can log in, do pre-applications, complete full applications. In fact, you can stop and log out and come back in when you have additional necessary information, and it saves all of the information that you had within. So it's a very easy system to use. And as you can see, it's powered by Slipstream, who is one of the partners in the IECA organization. If you go on to the next slide, please. All of the resources that we were talking about, and this is actually the homepage of the IECA when you log in. And so you'll be able to find information for property owners, installation contractors, capital providers, and local government. And then if you want more specific program documentation, that is when you need to log in. And you would press on the tab that says Start Here, and it will bring you to login. On to the next page, please. So here is my contact information along with my team. Feel free to contact us with any questions, but first I'm going to hand it back to Jessica to see if there are any questions from our online participants.
Hi, Anna Maria. So far, we don't have any questions online yet. If you have any questions, please submit them through the Q&A button.
And in the meantime, then I will ask here of our live audience if there are any questions. Yes, ma'am.
We talked about creating a special assessment on the tax bill.
Yes.
And as I understand it, that is technically the month, that's the yearly mortgage payment.
Yes.
To return the cost of the project.
Yes. By the
Does
way, I will be repeating the question after it's asked for the benefit of the online audience.
So I was almost anticipating him to say they would get a property tax exemption for doing something energy efficient. So it's actually creating an increase in the tax bill that follows the property until that mortgage is satisfied. How do you determine, or is there some way to determine the value added to the property from a project? And in general, you know, if you add a geothermal heat, as opposed to having a forced air heating system, that's, you know, properties assume to have heat. So what type of heat you have doesn't necessarily add value, it has heat. But it almost makes you want to look at it from a different perspective. So I'm just looking at it as the board of review member, when somebody comes and says, I think my value is too high, and that the commercial building and it has this type of program and certification, it's going to open up a whole lot of new questions.
Jessica, how much of that were you able to hear online?
None. It was very muddled in the back.
None, very muddled. Okay, so I will try to, it was a very long question, but I'll try to make it a little more succinct here. So the question was, it's more like a mortgage payment on a tax bill. So your tax bill is going to increase. So why would someone want to do that? It's not as though certain energy efficiency projects would add value necessarily. For example, if you already have a heating system and you move to geothermal, it's still a heating system. The fact that it's geothermal doesn't add anything to the value of the property. The way the assessment works, so basically, so my response is, you are correct in what you say. However, on the commercial basis, there is potentially a tax benefit that can be, and that's why we say that we are not tax consultants, we're not attorneys. This is for the property owner to decide along with the people who advise them if this is an undertaking that they can take advantage of various incentives on. So that is a distinct possibility.
I understand from the perspective of the property owner.
Yes.
Being able to invest in something that, you know, he has this additional cost. On the other hand,
Perhaps would you?
saving.
Yes.
I understand that. I just assessment
So,
on the tax bill?
so the question is, how does the assessment on the tax bill affect the taxes? So the assessor's office does not get involved with any CPACE financing. The special assessment contract does not flow through their office. It works like any other taxing assessment, taxing body. So like the school district or water and sewer. It is a special assessment contract that is voluntarily entered into by three parties: the commercial property owner, the capital provider, and the county. And so everyone is aware that this is a special line item that is considered in and of itself. It's almost separate.
Like the taxing body versus something that's added to the property assessment.
That's correct. It's not something added to the property assessment, but rather considered as a taxing body type of assessment. Thank you for the clarification. And yes, and thank you for the question. That's great. We have a couple of other questions here in the room. Yes, sir.
Yeah, how are you promoting this to business, to building developers and owners? Because you said there's 10 projects in Illinois to do.
Yes.
So, obviously people you have, you said you have registered contractors,
yes,
professionals that would help people, but I'm saying, how are you promoting for people to know this is available? So they might want to incorporate it in the beginning of their design.
So how are we reaching out to commercial property owners to let them know about this program? Well, as a nonprofit organization, we do our best to get the word out in as many ways as possible. We do press releases. We do a certain amount of advertising. We do launches and lunch and learns and webcasts and webinars, and we try to do something locally at least once, if not twice a year, to be able to engage the community. We depend also on our economic development partners within the localities, because they are the people who are working more specifically with commercial property owners and projects being done. And so that is the point in time while permitting is getting started, or a commercial property owner comes to a governmental entity, perhaps on a more local level than even the county itself, and says, we're going to do this project. We want to do this project. And the economic development people can then bring in PACE and say, have you considered utilizing CPACE financing as part of your capital stack for new construction, or as a gap filler, or a lessening of owner equity, rather than putting in 20% on a project, perhaps putting 10 or 15% in and having PACE take up the rest. Yes, and I think Darlene has a question.
I was going to answer.
Oh, yes, go right ahead.
So can you hear me? Jessica, can you let her know?
Jessica,
yes, we can
can
hear
you?
you.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. So this is Darlene. What I would like to say, to answer your question, John, is that before we had this launch, I've already had inquiries from at least 5 projects in the county of developers that are beginning projects and have heard that the county might be doing this. So there is word out there that it's available in the state of Illinois, and whatever other advertising or marketing or word of mouth, however the word's getting out to the developers that it's happening.
And so once a program like this is launched, to expand what Darlene has said, people begin hearing more about it word of mouth and through the registered contractors and through capital providers working in the area. And so this is not the kind of product that you put on a billboard and advertise. It's more relational and shaking hands and talking to people. So that's how we hope to grow it. Now, I think Jim has a question.
Just clarification on your question earlier. So if the customer was to spend $2 million on a solar system
Yes.
on the industrial site, the additional value created by that solar generation doesn't increase the taxes.
No.
On the product.
No. And so the question being posed, and for clarification on the very first question we had, if a $2 million solar project is being done on a property, that PACE assessment put on the tax bill will not increase the property value through the assessor's office by that same amount or more. And no, it is not running through the assessor's office. This is merely an improvement to the individual property. If at some point in time it is reassessed, I don't have any control over that, but certainly, it's benefiting the community with the energy improvements and the savings of CO2 equivalent in the atmosphere. So it's a green way of doing things. And we're very proud to be involved. Yes, go right ahead.
Can I also say one more thing? I think a couple of the folks that I've spoken with are interested in doing this because it extends the life of the potential, this part of the mortgage that they have, the potential part of capital that they borrowed. So in some cases, development has a time frame of 10 to 15 years, but this can go out 25 years. So it potentially extends the length of time you can pay back this loan, which in terms of money makes a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darlene. And I'm going to end with one last question that I'm frequently asked at these county launches. And that is, I, as a municipality in the county of Champaign, how do I join into the program? No joining necessary. Any municipality within the perimeters of Champaign County are automatically able to participate in CPACE financing for their constituents. So as long as you're a resident, the property is within Champaign County, it can take advantage of the Champaign County CPACE program. Any final questions from you, Jessica?
No, none has come in online.
Well, then we're right at the hour. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance today. And we look forward to doing great business here in the county of Champaign. Bye-bye.